so we have it separate. And moving on to the next performance improvements. So there's been few more that we have done for this release, mostly motivated by either customer issues or something that is coming from our tests. So one more is greatly improved performance of work items stable in Internet Explorer. So one Asian big customer complained that they are using Internet Explorer with Polarion, and opening a table with 10,000 work items takes 13-15 seconds maybe before the preview of work item is actually loaded from the time they click on the work items topic. So we've looked into that, and now the user experience is pretty much aligned among all the browsers, so it takes less than 2 seconds for by the default 10,000 work items that can be loaded in the work items table at once as a result of a query. Great improvement. Just for a curiosity, what was the blame was actually some old hacks that was bypassing or workarounding some old limitations of old versions of IE. So as we now support only the IE11, we started removing those hacks and custom code that was designed specifically for old versions of IE, which hopefully will make things better and better in the next releases. Then we work also a little bit on improving further the license handling in the cluster, because our recent optimizations broke the statistics in the logs. The peak values were not correct, and I know that we rely on those to provide the reporting data to put the license usage. So we did it again better and now correctly. So now our login is scalable. It's very quick. Can log in 3,000 users in 500 seconds in our tests, and it still provides constant login times in terms of hundreds of milliseconds. So we are sure it now works correctly. Plus the statistics in the logs and in the administrations are correct. Finally. So we are hopefully done with the logging handling in the cluster for now, at least. Then we fixed out of memory error if there's a big commit that involves thousands of work items. Surprisingly, we have dealt with such escalations from 3 different customers all of a sudden this time, but that issue was there since the beginning, since the activities were introduced. So, it's not a very good idea to really modify many work items or many objects in one commit. In our, for example, restricted bulk edit, we limit the number of modified work items to 500 in one commit. I think it should be less than 1,000. If it's more than that, I think some unpredictable things like out of memory typically can happen. So this issue was in the activity generation, and that's now fixed. One more thing, Sylvani, for easier troubleshooting is that we now track or log the memory allocation for each thread, which is very useful for troubleshooting, especially for memory-related problems. I can probably show you just my logs. It's very straightforward. So if you just go to the transaction log, then for the typical transactions, for all the transactions actually, there is a new allocated memory record which says how much memory was allocated by this thread during its life cycle. So it doesn't mean that the thread kept that memory at a time, but it's really all the memory that has been allocated from the start of this transaction till the end of this transaction. So if you see some thread that is allocating a lot of memory, then it's potentially indicating that there is something wrong. It may not be the case. For example, the DB history creator, one thread is running for a very long time. There's lots of objects spinning in it, so it can be reaching terabytes. But if it would be, I don't know, thread representing rendering of a report, and it would be allocating hundreds of gigabytes, then there is something wrong with the report, very likely. Then one more point is About enum options table in the database. So we had that table in the database for quite some time, and it's there for the purpose of the external reporting tools. So this table is basically filled with information about what enumeration options are available for each work item type in each project and what is the label of the enumeration, because that information is nowhere else available for external reporting tools that only are exposed to the external access to our database. And due to some issues and optimizations, it actually happened that this enum options table was not populated after index, so it was empty. Previously, it was populated all the time, but it was very, very slow. So what we did for now, we optimized what is actually written into this enum options table. So it's only the configured enumeration, not the object-based enumerations. Object-based enumerations means, for example, if you configure enumeration of type object, so it contains, you can select from all the work items in that enumeration. So that data are elsewhere. You can find all the work items in work items table. We don't need duplicated data in the database. And we also make the population of the enum options table configurable by a system property. That is documented in the help. By default, it's disabled, so the enum options table is not populated. The job that populates the enum options table is not started, and also these refresh buttons in the enumeration administrations are hidden from 17.3 release. If you need that enum options table populated, then you just enable it through the property documented in Polarion online help. And last thing I wanted to mention, the performance scalability enhancement, is optimized loading of the enumerations options for widgets. Like previously, for some of the operations, if you initially were opening the widget configuration or widget property sidebar, then some of the fields could be opening for quite some time because of the collection of the enumeration options for these. So when implementing the Kanban widget, we realized that in some cases it really takes minutes to load the sidebar with the configuration of the widgets. So team has been working on fixing this behavior and making it much faster, so it really loads in a matter of seconds. Surprisingly, this is handled differently, for example, for the query builder and for the widget sidebar. So now, performance-wise, it should be very comparable. Any questions about these performance enhancements? None? Okay. We'll be still working on performance improvements, mostly driven by the problems that our customers have in scope of the performance budget. We also have a strategic initiatives that are supposed to address next level scalability criteria of Polarion. So one team is dedicated to these activities, working on the load test, and really they should follow up with pushing the limits of Polarion even further to support thousands of concurrent users and also much bigger data sets. But that's ongoing effort. Yes, Brian?
Brad, on that note, is there any information gaps, incident gaps that you have that you want us to be on the lookout for, or is there any special manner in which you want us to be sending information in?
That's a good point. So far, I think we are struggling enough internally to define what the load test should be, but maybe we should really have a discussion actually internally about the definition of the load test. I mean, the requirements for what we are aiming at, I think they're pretty clear. Would be probably also good to review them with your team and also with the pre-sales. But what we are now doing with the load test, that basically we decided to go the way that we have persona-based load tests. So we define what are our typical personas, what are they typically doing, and really drill down to make it very granular into the clicks in the system and the operation that the user have, and how much delays are there between these operations. And eventually you want to be able to have a different combinations of these personas and different volume of the overall users that should give us how much of typical users and their distribution among the personas can a system handle with certain hardware configuration and with certain data volume. So I think the concept is good, but the devil is, as usual, in the details. So I think it would be good to actually have a bit more thorough discussion with you on the detailed definition of these personas or just statistic that we see in the system, because we don't really collect any, say, aggregate statistics on top of the operations that the users do in the system, etc., etc. And it's a little difficult to mine the data from the customer log. So maybe you would have more insight from the production experience. That will be also useful input. So I'll make sure that thank you for that offer. I'll follow up with you on the topic. Yes. Maybe we can have one more call with a couple of people from your organization. If there's anyone from the pre-sales interested in this discussion as well, please let me know. I think beginning of January we can organize one hour call about this. Yeah, thanks, Brian. Okay, and I think we are coming to an end. Last point that I usually discuss is the notable issue fixes, which is really the most boring part. Here I would like to just highlight a couple of things. We've been working with a couple of issues for specific customer who is really sensitive about more import-export capabilities. So there have been a number of issues reported, escalated. So it helped our import quite significantly. So we fixed a couple of things in importing of ordered lists. So we dealt with some cases where the structure of the list was not imported correctly to Polarion. We are also dealing with sizing of the only objects and their previews when being imported from Word to Polarion. We've been fixing issues around appearance of the merge cells when exporting data from Polarion to Word, and a few more things related to Word import and export. So that's been quite significant improvement in the quality of the Word import and export. But with this really very data specific features, it's always tough because you have very little control over the data that can get into the system. And we always claim that we don't really aim to be 100% compatible with the Word. It's simply not possible. We are a requirements management tool, not Word editor. So we try to focus on really fixing the most severe issues that prevent customers from getting their data to Polarion in proper way. One more thing I wanted to highlight is a regression that was introduced by some recent performance optimization that it greatly improved the performance of the trend chart widgets for the first rendering when they were based on Lucene. But unfortunately, this optimization caused that some of the trend charts didn't show correct values. So we have to revert that optimization completely for now. We'll be looking for another way how to actually approach that. It was not in all the cases wrong, but in some of the cases that our quality assurance department didn't catch, fortunately. So now we have to think about another way. But yes, fortunately, we were able to at least resolve these regressions not showing the correct data in the trend charts for this release. So I think that's all from my side. Maybe one more highlight for the next release. We are working on support for merge cells. So in rich text editor and in document editor, providing the capability how to modify, create the merge cells in tables, also including the full integration with the Word import and Word round trip. I think that has been a quite popular feature request. I think it's definitely among the top 10, maybe even top 5 of our enhancement requests. So I think that's good to mention it, that this is coming in the near future. Any final questions, comments, thoughts?
I've got both a comment and a question. Maybe start with the question. Do we have any plans in the future to add some of the great reports we have stored on knowledge into the product? I know that we are not that happy to take code written by not Polarion developers, but I think we have some really great reports stored on knowledge, and if they would be part of the standard product, that would be great.
That's a good point. So how we deal with it now? So we just finished complete rewriting of the demo data and project templates from the classic wiki to the live report technology. And in scope of that project, Petr Šibík really did a great job of rewriting basically all the reports from scratch, providing great examples. Petr Šibík is part of the product management team. So he doesn't really have to work on R&D project, but he can be working solely on these templates and solutions on top of Polarion. So he's done the safe template, he's done also the tool qualification kit with Mike Bors, and he'll be continuing working on that. And Petr is also managing the extension side now. So I think it would be good to have this discussion with Petr, what he thinks about this. If this is something that we should publish on the extension side, because I don't think the knowledge is actually exposed to the customers. No. I personally have no problem in adding some of the very useful and very commonly used reports in the demo data themselves, but it still has to serve the purpose and have to be integrated into the process that is delivered in those templates. And that Petr Šibík knows the most about this because he was really working on redesigning our out-of-the-box templates for past 9 months or more.
And to be clear, I'm really talking about the extensions where I would really recommend everyone to install them on every customer machine. So, for example, what I have in mind is we have this variant management add-on where you can see, okay, this variant creates these documents. That's, for example, something where I would say that needs to be in every customer installation. But I can discuss this with Peter, sure.
Okay. Yeah, but that definitely makes sense. So if you have that list really hand, just maybe send it to me and Petr. We'll just take a look at it first, discuss it on the product management call, find out what are the priorities for Petr, because he's mostly managed by Jiří, and the project he's been working on are rather long term. But I think this is a good idea, that we can get some good benefit with low investment. So I think we should be definitely look into this. So please, Daniel, kick it off. I will follow up on that.
Okay, I'll start a discussion on Slack and then we can check. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
And as a comment, great job, everyone. Nice features. I'm always asking stupid questions, but this doesn't mean that the work which was done wasn't great. So perfect.
I'm very glad that you are asking these stupid questions. I think it's very bold of you.
I'll plan to do. Don't stop asking these stupid questions.
Very good. Yeah, I better hear stupid questions than no questions.
Good.
Okay, more questions, smart or stupid, or comments? No? Okay, then I think we're gonna wrap up our training. We almost used the 2 hours. So thank you all for participation. I'll be sending out invites for the next training that will be in mid-March probably, or first half of March. Probably you can expect some chaotic set of invites because it's rather hard to send it right on the first attempt, at least for me. Sorry for that. Okay, so that's it. Have a good day and have a great Christmas. Enjoy the time with your families and hear you in the new year.
You too, Radek, and of course everyone else. Have a great Christmas. Bye bye.
Feel better, Roddick.
Thank you.